Well, hey there, Elevate friends and family. Mark Pomeroy here, welcoming you to this week's Elevate Church online experience. Absolutely brilliant to have you here, whether you've been part of our online community for a while or joining us for the very first time. We've been expecting you. We're glad you're here, and we're excited for what God's going to do in our time together. Before we go on, make sure you like and subscribe and click the bell and do all those things because we're here every single week, and we want to make sure that you don't miss out. Now, one of the other things we do every single week is we worship together. And we've been teasing out that we've got some brand new worship partners coming on. Well, another one today, a guy named Jordan Merritt. And you're going to love him. He's going to lead us in 2 songs. The words are going to be on the screen. So join in wherever you are and let's worship our amazing God together.
All things are from you. All things are for you. All heaven adores, all saints bow before the Holy One. No power can hold you, no weapon oppose you. You were the first, you'll be the last, above them all. There's never been another one, there'll never be another one like you. The Father, Spirit, and the Son, all glory to the Holy One is due. There'll never be another one like you. Oh, those who have seen you have witnessed the King who would leave his throne to make us his own, a people of praise. So let all who have known you step into your throne room and lift up a song to whom we belong, oh ancient of days. There's never been another one, there'll never be another one like you. The Father, Spirit, and the Son, all glory to the Holy One is due. There'll never be another one like you. There'll never be another one like you. Oh, let the darkness know our God is conquered sin. Let the earth behold his kingdom rushing in. Let the church rise up and speak his name again. There is none like you. There is none like you. Oh, let the darkness know our God is conquered sin. Let the earth behold his kingdom rushing in. Oh, There'll never be another one like you, Jesus. There'll never be another one like you. There'll never be another one like you. Who am I that you would want? How could I be your desire? All I have's a humble offering, but that's all that you require. All my wealth and all my fortune, every treasure labored for, I'd give it up in just a moment, 'cause your delight is my reward. I wanna please your heart, I wanna make you smile. I'd give up 1,000 dreams, more than 1,000 times. I'd go anywhere you ask, no matter how much it cost. I would do anything just for a chance to make you proud. In my wins or in my suffering, in every season of this life, oh, let me hear, oh, good and faithful. In your joy I'm satisfied. I wanna please your heart, I wanna make you smile. I'd give up 1,000 dreams, more than 1,000 times. I'd go anywhere you ask, no matter how much it costs. I would do anything just for a chance to make you proud. And like a child with his father, I just want to hear, well done. I don't need a celebration, your delight in me's enough. And I don't want to be a taker and abuser of your grace. I just want to live a life that puts a smile upon your face. Oh, I want to please your heart, I want to make you smile. I'd give up 1,000 dreams, more than 1,000 times. I'd go anywhere you ask, no matter how much it costs. I would do anything just for a chance. I would do anything just for a chance to make you proud.
Hey, so as some of you might be aware, the brand new Superman movie just dropped onto streaming platforms. I wonder if any of you watched that either at the cinema or you've already jumped into the streaming. I haven't done it yet. It's a maybe for me. But, you know, Superman, many movies have been released under that brand. And it falls into the category of hero movies or superhero movies, including, things like Batman movies and Spider-Man movies, Wonder Woman movies, all in this broad category of hero or superhero genre. One of the things that characterizes these hero movies is there's also almost always a villain. And the movie's kind of centered around this idea of the hero versus the villain. And we like it when, I think we all like it, when the hero ultimately overcomes and defeats the villain. But, what I want to actually look at today is that God actually makes it possible for the villain to become the hero. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So last week we launched a brand new series called God is on the Move. And it's really recognizing that God is doing some incredible things here at Elevate Church and seems to be increasingly doing miracles and transforming people. And he's bringing new people in and things that are happening that we can't even explain except for the fact that God is clearly on the move. So we're leaning into that. We're hungry for more of that. We think it's just the beginning of this new, fresh, exciting chapter of Elevate Church. And what we're doing through this teaching series is we're drawing inspiration from the early church, specifically looking at some of the highlights from the book of Acts. And in fact, specifically, looking at the second half of the book of Acts, because the beginning of the year we did a series called I Love My Church, looking at some of the highlights of the first half of the book of Acts. So last week when we launched this series, we taught the idea that God moves in challenges. The fact that you're experiencing challenges not only doesn't mean that God isn't going to use you, it actually points to this idea that God often uses great disruption to do great things. Today, I want to talk about this idea that God moves in second chances, that our worst is no match for God's best. So, speaking of the book of Acts, if you've got the Bible app installed on your smart device, you can scan this flow code. It's going to take you to just a little bit ahead of where we finished up last week. Last week, we finished in Acts chapter 8. Today, we're going to drop into Acts chapter 9. But while you're doing that, and just prior to jumping into Acts chapter 9, we stumble across a character that enters the pages of history at a time when the early church were facing increasing persecution by the Jewish religious leaders. So the early church were preaching the good news about Jesus. The religious leaders, Jewish religious leaders, one, thought that they were wrong, that Jesus is not the Messiah that God had long promised. And secondly, the church was growing in numbers, growing in influence, and the Jewish religious leaders saw them as a threat. And right then, one of the villains, in fact, you could almost conclude he was potentially the main villain, enters the pages of history, a Jewish religious leader named Saul. And Saul enters the pages of history when Luke, who recorded the book of Acts, wrote about the first ever recorded killing of a Jesus follower, a man named Stephen. And so Stephen was put on this sort of mock trial, and he kept preaching the good news about Jesus. And this is what happened around him. The people around him, the Jewish religious leaders, etc., the crowds that had gathered, put their hands over their ears and they began shouting. And they rushed at Stephen, they dragged him out of the city and began to stone him, which is ultimately how he was put to death. His accusers took off their coats and laid them at the feet of a young man named Saul. This sort of deference to this seemingly prestigious, important person named Saul. And Luke continues, Saul was one of the witnesses, and he agreed completely with the killing of Saul. He affirmed it. He gave it the thumbs up. And then Luke continues, Saul was going everywhere to destroy the church. He went from house to house, dragging out both men and women to throw them into prison. So Saul was on a mission to extinguish the church. He was a Jewish religious leader, young, enthusiastic, zealous, I think we would call him. So anyway, Luke continues to record about Philip preaching outside of Jerusalem into Samaria. People were placing their faith in Jesus. Luke records that Peter and John then visited where people were placing their faith in Jesus, prayed for those people. They received the Holy Spirit. Philip continued to travel around preaching about Jesus in these parts of the known world. And Luke continues in chapter 9, verses 1 to 2. Meanwhile, while the church was expanding, God was showing up, God was on the move, people were being filled with his Holy Spirit, people were placing their faith in Jesus. Meanwhile, Saul was uttering threats with every breath and was eager to kill the Lord's followers. So he went to the high priest and he requested letters addressed to the synagogues in Damascus, asking for their cooperation in the arrest of any followers of the way, aka Christians, aka the early church in that part of the world, that he found there. And he wanted to bring them, both men and women, back to Jerusalem in chains. This is like Luke says he was eager to kill the Lord's followers. Damascus was about a 250-kilometer journey, which in those days would have taken about a week out and a week back. Not an easy trip, but he wasn't content just arresting and seeing people like Stephen killed, rounding up the church in Jerusalem. No, he wanted to make sure that anywhere the church was getting a foothold, getting established, that he was going to play a key role in extinguishing the church and therefore eliminating the threat. Now, has anybody here ever experienced a toothache? Yeah, it's pretty common. And what I've observed is people who experience toothaches generally fall into one of two categories. One category is what I would call the smart people. They start to feel the tooth aching. They make an appointment with their dentist. They go in to get it evaluated. And whatever work needs to be done, typically it should be a reasonably simple fix. Then there's the other people. Yeah, you know who you are. You know, you pride yourself in being a holdout. Your narrative is like, it's not that bad. I mean, give it a few days. It should go away. And then you chomp down on a spoonful of ice cream and you realize that you have hit rock bottom. And you recognize, okay, I admit something needs to change here. Well, in my several years of church leadership, I've noticed that actually people tend to fall into one of two categories when it comes to considering placing their faith in Jesus. You know, there's the smart people who investigate, they're open, their minds are open, their hearts are open, they poke around for themselves, and they, many times discovered that by placing their faith in Jesus, believing that he is who he claimed to be, that he has the power to make their life better, ultimately, and make them better at life. And so they place their faith in him. And then there is other people, convinced that they know better, that they can do life all on their own. And oftentimes, the other people, well, something happens or a cascade of things happen in their lives, and they come to realize they've hit rock bottom and recognize something needs to change. A couple of years ago, we were preparing to baptize a young teenager, 13 years old. And when we baptize here in Perth in our live experience on a Sunday, we like to record just a snapshot of that individual's story. You know, how did you come to place your faith in Jesus? How did you come to be part of Elevate Church? Why are you getting baptized today? And when we were prepping this young guy, 13 years old, to share his story, he was just a little sheepish. And, you know, okay, he's 13, so fair enough. Point a camera at him. It's a bit of a new thing. But actually, it turns out, and I was the person prepping him for the interview, he just said, like, I just don't really have, a big story to tell. You know, it's just kind of boring. Like, I'm 13. I fell in love with Jesus. I placed my faith in him. There's nothing really... And I said to him, listen, there are kids out there and there are teenagers out there, and they need to hear your story. They need to know that it is possible, that you don't need to mess your life up, that you can place your faith in Jesus early and you can follow him early, and it will keep you from a world of pain. And incidentally, there are parents out there that need to hear that this is possible, that their kid, their teenager who hasn't gone off the rails yet actually might not go off the rails. Now, I'm a massive fan of the stories when people have hit rock bottom and Jesus has met them at the bottom and they've realized things need to change and he's lifted them out and he's forgiven them and he's started to transform them and restore them. I'm also a fan of the stories of the people who had a relationship with Jesus and Jesus never allowed them to hit rock bottom. Because here's the thing, it's God's power at work in both scenarios. I think like the rock bottom stories, the hookers and cocaine stories, yeah, sure. They're the ones that the movies get made about. They're the ones that the YouTube interviews kind of blow up about. But here's the thing, both of those matter because God is on the move in both of those scenarios. But I want to just quickly double click on those of you that you actually identify with the people who've hit rock bottom. Like, you know, yeah, that's me. And I want you to know that it doesn't matter what you've done wrong. It doesn't matter how you failed. It doesn't matter that you may not have been a hero in your life for a season or for years and decades potentially. God can forgive you. He can restore you, and he can ultimately empower you to live out his plans and purposes in your life, because God is a God of second chances, and your worst is no match for God's best. So, I mean, it's going to take a lot for him to turn around. I mean, he's right on the bleeding edge as a Jewish religious leader, young, passionate. He thinks he's right, that the early church, the Christians, are wrong. He thinks that he's found his life mission and his life calling to actually extinguish the early church, and he's going at it absolutely all gas, no brakes. So what's it going to take for someone like Saul to turn around? Well, now he's on this mission to Damascus, and Luke records as he was approaching Damascus on this mission, a light from heaven suddenly shone down around him. Well, Saul fell to the ground, and he heard a voice saying to him, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. And the voice replied, "I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. Now get up and go into the city, and you'll be told what you must do." Now, when you read that, I wonder if you might have been expecting Jesus to say to Saul or ask the question, why are you persecuting my people? But instead, Jesus very definitively said, why are you persecuting me? And I don't want you to miss this. This is a clear demonstration and a clear reminder that Jesus identifies with his people. He promises that he will walk ahead of you, that he will walk beside you, that you'll never be doing this life alone, that when you are in the midst of your struggles, when you feel like you are hitting rock bottom, Jesus wants to meet you there, and he wants to take you to a better place. So, Saul was completely rendered blind. His companions actually had to pick him up and lead him by the hand into Damascus. And so here we have like the peak of the villain in the story needing a second chance. And we're kind of hanging on to see, is this the second chance that Saul needs? Well, Saul ultimately arrived into Damascus, and he sat there for 3 days, still blind, didn't even eat or drink. Like, I just wonder, but there was a sense that Saul had hit rock bottom, that Saul could no longer continue doing what he was doing, continue on the path that he thought was his life calling. While Saul's sitting there, blind, not eating, not drinking, more questions than answers, I'm sure, God appeared to a man who was a resident of Damascus, a Jesus follower named Ananias, and the Lord said, go over to Straight Street, the house of Judas. When you get there, ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul. He's praying to me right now, and I'm showing him a vision of a man named Ananias coming in and laying hands on him so he can see again. And Ananias' response to this voice was like, wait, what? Saul? We've heard about Saul. Isn't he the guy that's been persecuting believers? Isn't he the guy that gave the 2 thumbs up to Stephen being stoned? Didn't he actually come here to Damascus to round me and all of the Jesus followers up and arrest us and ship us off back to Jerusalem? Well, guess what? All of that's true. That was Saul's mission. But get this, God is on the move. And God is about to use a man, a Jesus follower named Ananias, who we've never read about before, and we will never read about again. But he charged this man, Ananias, with the responsibility to step out in faith, push past his fear, and pray for a man who would go on to become the second most influential person behind Jesus in the establishment and the expansion of the early church. Here's the thing, friends. If you're faithful to what God has called you to do, who knows what that could ultimately unleash. So Ananias went and found Saul and laid hands on him, and he said, Brother Saul, welcome to the family, calling him Brother Saul. The Lord Jesus, who appeared to you on the road, has sent me so that you can regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Instantly, something like scales fell from Saul's eyes, and he regained his sight. Then he got up and was baptized. Saul's worst was no match for God's best. So Saul stayed with the believers in Damascus for a few days. They went from fearing him to embracing him. And immediately after these few days, Saul began preaching about Jesus in the synagogue, saying he's indeed the Son of God. All who heard him were amazed. Isn't this the same man who caused such devastation among the Jesus followers in Jerusalem? You know, his reputation had preceded him. And didn't he come here to arrest them and take them in chains to the leading priests? Well, Saul's preaching became more and more powerful, and the Jews in Damascus couldn't refute his proofs that Jesus was indeed the Messiah. Now, sidebar, as Saul was going around preaching, guess what? Some of his peers, Jewish religious leaders in Damascus, saw him now as the threat, and they started to plot his arrest and his actual murder. And so some of the believers in Damascus, under the cover of darkness one night, helped Saul escape from Damascus, and Saul essentially fled elsewhere. But he left Damascus both a different person and with a different life purpose than when he entered. God was giving Saul a second chance. And this man ultimately went on to launch churches in 15 locations across the known world, to discover, develop, and deploy leaders into those churches. Through his written instruction to the churches and to the believers, he ultimately wrote 13 letters that now make up half of the New Testament section of the Bible. He championed the inclusion of non-Jewish people into the Christian faith, because the original assumption was that Jesus came just for Jewish people. He solidified the theology of salvation through faith, and that grace is a free gift. They were confused. Is it salvation plus good works that gets us into a relationship with God? No, it's salvation through faith in Jesus alone. He shared the good news about Jesus with rulers and with servants, with rich and with poor, with Colosseum crowds and with tiny house churches, and the list goes on and on. Over the course of years, all the while being whipped, beaten, arrested, imprisoned, ambushed, shipwrecked, deserted by friends, falsely accused, and ultimately put to death. The very thing that he was doing when he was a Jewish religious leader, put to death by the authorities for his faith. But that's what God can do through a villain who surrenders their life to Jesus. So here's my question as we land this. God is on the move. What's a step that you need to take? You might be here and you're at rock bottom. And God's using Saul's story to kind of clobber you, to realize this isn't working. I can't do this on my own. I need God to move in my life. And then there's others of you, the question is, I need God to move, and how can he move like Ananias through my life? And ultimately like Paul, who was previously Saul, through his life. So let's keep leaning into that. Let's keep asking that question. God, move in my life, might move through my life powerfully. I'm here for it. See you next week. Hey, so in case you missed it, we have an app, our Elevate Church AU app, which you can scan this flow code. It's going to take you straight to the Apple or the Google store. This flow code's pretty smart. It knows which platform you're using, Apple or Android. It'll take you right there. You can download the app. It's free. Download it quickly, and you're going to find our online experience there every week. You're going to find the audio podcast, which is the message that we preach live here in person on a Sunday in our live experience in Perth. You'll see some amazing and inspiring stories. There's some kids resources. You can give from within inside our app. So grab that and take advantage of that. Speaking of giving, as I said, you can give from inside our app, or you can go to our website, elevatechurch.me. Look for the give section, and it's all pretty straightforward how you can invest in and through what God's doing at Elevate Church. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for being part of it. We love you. We love the journey that we're on together, and we look forward to seeing you back next week, for God is on the move.